everybody's sorry when it's time to pay the piper. You know what I mean? For real. We're all sorry when it's time to pay the piper. And so now I'm met because of these consequences with this moment. And I thought, if you can continue to lie and say, well, it wasn't this, it was allergy medication, or just try to come up with something, I'm thinking, man, you're a real freaking scumbag if you do that. You know what I mean? What kind of person does that? You are a monster. You are all those things that you're in prison for. If you could do that to people that love you and care about you and are there more than you are for yourself. And then it was really a punch to the gut. And I thought, I can't do that to them. I can't do it. I just got to tell them the truth. And so I got on the phone, and oh man, it was difficult. But I started to tell them the truth, and they were devastated. They were angry, especially my dad. My dad was really, really mad. But I started to tell them the truth. And the crazy thing, man, with what consequences will do, well, like in the 12-step era, AA and NA, things like that, they call it the rock bottom. That rock bottom will bring absolute devastation at times. But that's the moment where we can piece together a life that is different than the one we've been living, which entails peace and healing, and just living truthfully. Yeah. And that's what happened with me is I started to change by just speaking the truth to them. They were upset. They were devastated and disappointed and all those things that wonderful parents are going to be. But I told them the truth, and I felt like so many pounds were just lifted off my shoulder. And so that gave me like a little glimmer of like, see, man, you told the truth. You've been running from it your whole life. You spoke on it. You hurt them. What happened there? And so looking at how it unfolds, I thought, man, I just didn't want to hurt. I was hurting. I was hurting my whole life. I just didn't want to hurt. And so that's why I was doing all these things. I didn't want to hurt. But unfortunately, the decisions I was making was hurting other people. Yeah. And I gave them consequences that they didn't ask for, nor that they deserve. So there's a theme. Just like the young man I took from this planet, he didn't deserve that. He didn't ask for those consequences, nor did his family. And all they wanted from me was the truth, but I never gave it to him because I couldn't tell myself the truth. Right. You know what I mean? And so these things started entering, and my conscience was re-engaged for the first time. And then, I just started to break down, really, rise from the ashes of our own defeat, right, like the phoenix. But I had to break to heal.
That was the first break.
That was it, telling them the truth. And, they were devastated. Once again, they were upset. Like, we didn't know none of those things. So where I was able to tell them, like, you guys came up my whole time and you were hurting, you were suffering, you were struggling because I'm in there. So what was I supposed to do? Say, I'm struggling. I hate it here. I'm suffering. And now you're going to leave. And now the rest of the time, you're going to be devastated every single day. So if I come out here and smile and be goofy and do all the stuff that you know me to be, you leave here thinking, man, okay, Richie's okay.
He's
that
okay.
means you don't stress. And for me, that was the most important thing, but that was the best that I could give. And I didn't know how to do anything else. I wasn't willing to try anything else, but I didn't know how to do anything else because I was doing one thing my whole life. I didn't know anything else. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of that change and going through that process, going through the 115 process, right? Going and meeting lieutenant, trying to appeal it. Like, so it wasn't me, right? It was all this other stuff. I get called out and I made a determination. If I was going to get met with a lieutenant telling me you can't have these attachments to your appeal and all this other stuff, I would just say, you know what, hell with it, because this is the moment that I quit doing what I've always done, which was running. Because how am I going to take this to the board? As a lifer, you got to go to the board and say, you beat this, but we think you're guilty, right? So you're going to get another denial. But if I was to say, you know what, I am guilty, well, then I'm taking bullets out of their gun that they can shoot me with. Right. And so, but what is the truth?
Truth is that you had a dirty piss test, right? Yeah.
Straight up.
And you decided to take accountability. And I think that's a very honorable thing, bro. You know what I mean? And like you said, it's difficult. And I don't think that a lot of people who are in the free world understand how difficult that was for you. Me, I know because I've been through what you've been through. I was there, locked up. And, when you're in a negative place, and like you said, it took 25 years, I think. Man, when you're in that negative place, in that negative state, for you to take that actual step, you know what I mean? In this place, like you said, we're not allowed to share feelings. We're not allowed to do things like that. You know what I mean? Because it's a sign of weakness. you did that, and that's very honorable, and it shows that you were no longer selfish. Yeah. And then you were thinking about everyone else that your decisions are impacting. That's the thing about us. We don't realize, like you getting high in prison, you think you're not hurting no one else. And it's the same thing with me. I do that too. I always called it self-destruction. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't care about myself. And so I'll go do something like that, do some drugs or do some alcohol or weed, whatever it may be, or just live my life dangerously because I think it's just me I'm affecting. But, in all reality, we're affecting everyone that loves us, that is a part of our lives. And just like me taking, that person's life, I affected so many people, his family, his loved ones, you know what I'm saying? Like all the way down the line, people that knew him, friends, kids, everybody. I affected all those people. And then I affected my own family and myself. And so, for us to sit here and be selfish and think that we're not hurting no one else and living like that, man, and then finally figure it out and say, you know what? What kind of piece of shit am I? You know what I'm saying? That's going to do this to people who love me, who are taking their time to, still be in my life and come see me and things like that, man. I'm proud of you, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm proud of you. And don't think anything about it because it was meant to happen when it was meant to happen,
For sure. I'm super thankful. I'm super proud of myself. But so really, that was the beginning. So it's not like a light switch where, you make this decision, everything's automatically better. So it was a process. The first thing was to admit the truth with the situation that's at hand right now. And that set the table for all the stuff that we would, like how many people that we've hurt ourselves, how many people that we affected. See, I wasn't able to do that at that time, but the icebreaker of that was speaking the truth to my family, and then speaking the truth to the lieutenant, speaking the truth to the COs that were like, they believe that, this must be, there's false positives and things like that, and walk up to the podium and say, you know what, that wasn't the case, man. I was guilty of that. Because I don't want you to believe something about me that's not true. You know what I mean? I'm not a deception artist. I don't like that. So I just want you to know, because I don't want you to think that. The reality is, I'd rather just man up and tell you the truth, and I was guilty, man. And so you get respect from that, because now people don't question your integrity or your legitimacy or your credibility. It could not have been easy for this man to tell the truth, but he did it. Right. And so each one of those little things like that, which were huge for me because I hadn't been doing it, continued to put me in a position to begin the process of looking at the extent of what I've done, who I did it to, how would they feel. So you learn empathy, victims awareness. I facilitated that stuff, and then I made up a group consisted of that because I really wanted to understand. But I realized that there's so many people in there that are running too, and we each do something with our pain, right? We each do something with our shame and our guilt and all that stuff. So we act out because we'd rather do anything. Any choice is better than a choice to look at yourself
and facing yourself. Yeah. And
so I began to understand. I thought, man, I can give you a 25-page thesis on sports, anything you want to talk about. But when it comes to how many people you hurt and how you hurt them, I would give you one sentence.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because I was not looking at it. It's not to say that it wasn't important.
Right.
It wasn't important enough for me to do the work to understand, because that means I had to endure more pain. I've been running from pain my whole life, so I was not accepting any responsibility, and I couldn't hold myself accountable. Because addressing that was just excruciating. So once again, any choice was better than a choice to do that. But hurting people is not my nature, but it's something that I continued to do because I didn't know how to do anything else. And a big part of it too is that I didn't have the courage to try to do anything else, because it should have been very evident. Right, it was the biggest smack in the face, especially after I took someone's life. It should have been a wake-up call, right? It should have been obvious. It wasn't so obvious to me, because once again, that meant I had to face it. So, coming to that point where I communicated for the first time on that level with anybody, and it just happened to be my mom and dad, and told them the situation, really gave me the courage and to face the truth and to speak the truth, and do what the family wanted me to do, which was to give them the answer of why. And I never gave them that, right? So these little things started entering my brain, like this is what needs to be done, right? We got to do it, but we don't know how. The first step was, communicating in the truth, but what ended up happening is I took that responsibility, right? I felt better about myself. It opened the door, just like a gateway drug. It's like, well, this is a gateway drug to that, right? Everything is the concepts are the same. It's just the different elements of life that we experience and how we look at it. For me, it was the gateway for me to be completely honest about what I've done, to understand the devastation that caused so many people that didn't deserve it. They didn't ask for it, and they don't have it coming. Yet I brought these consequences. So it's time, once again, we're all sorry when it's time to pay the piper. This is that moment where I could look at myself in the mirror and not have to duck and dodge myself, right? I'm looking at myself in the mirror, but I'm really looking at my feet. Right? Because I can't look at myself, just the image of myself, but not me, truthfully who I am. But that started to happen. I started to feel a little bit better about myself. I started to take life a little bit more serious and look at things on a deeper level than I had before. Right, go to AA, NA groups, and confess, which I thought was the biggest thing in the world for me to do. The craziest thing is they knew already, right? So it just kind of opened the door. Say that people already seen what I'm doing. They already know that I'm involved in criminality. I'm using substances. So for me to admit that, why is it a problem? Because they already know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I thought I was slick enough to where nobody did. So it was difficult for me to get to that point where I could speak on something because I didn't realize that everybody already knew. It wasn't a secret. I was sick. And so once people were going like, well, Rich, we're glad you finally pulled up from that nosedive you're doing. It led me to another level to go ahead and speak the truth. And believe that I can continue to change into somebody better than I've ever been.
Right.
Once I started believing that, then it can happen. And the most profound moment that I've ever had in my life probably was coming back from these meetings. One specific time I came back and I felt good about what I was doing because I knew at this point I could take in the information and I can regurgitate it, but it doesn't mean that I can speak on how do I apply it to my life. This is a big thing. If the parole board is going to make a decision on whether they're going to get you give you an opportunity to be free and be back in society where you could potentially hurt somebody, if you can't speak on how you apply these things, then why would they let you go? And yet we're always mad at that. They don't want us to go home. You better show them why you have an opportunity to change yourself. And that, I don't like to say the word deserving, right? It's hard for me to get to that point. But doing better, taking these things serious, applying it to my life. I came back home one night to my dorm, and I'm sitting there, and I previously I began to talk to this young man. Let's say like, hey man, I'm sorry, man. I finally started to get to that point where I could look at it, right, and how I truly, truly felt my nature. I'm sorry, and I knew that what I did was wrong, right? And even though I didn't face it for my whole life, I still knew it was wrong. But now I'm able to get it out of my mouth, not just think about it and kind of shove it down. Now I'm speaking it into existence. And one day I came back and I literally said, look what I'm doing now. And I called him by his name out of respect to his family. I won't say his name, but I called him. I was like, look what I'm doing now, right? Because I knew at this point in my life I was sincere, I was genuine, and I was doing it for the right reasons. I was like, look what I'm doing now, and he spoke to me, man. And it was literally his voice. It was him. There ain't no doubt. I know that man's voice, and it was him. And he said some things to me, man. And growing up as young boys and young men and men, you don't cry, you don't feel these emotions, you feel anger and rage, right? That's the acceptable emotions of young men, right? And so especially in prison, I sobbed like a little girl, man. And I don't want to say like a little girl like that's a bad thing, because we all sob, right? And we're all the same in that regard because we're humans, we're not robots. We're equipped with emotions that a lot of times we'll deny, but they're still there. But I sobbed more than I ever have in my entire life. And that cracked the shell, a moment of rebirth for me to know absolutely what direction that I'm going to go without question, that I was all in that moment. And the sense of honoring him and his family, but my family and myself and all those people that we don't take into account, cousins, relative friends. It's easy to say, well, his mom and dad or his brother or his sister or whatever, but to look at the totality of that process began. And I thought, you know what, this is for you, man. I got you. I got to make it right. How can you rest in peace when I'm living the way I'm living and doing the things that I'm doing? your family's struggling and hurting because of me still. And I thought that ain't happening no more, man. I'm done. I didn't know what else to do. I was devastated. So I went to the chaplain and I did a confession, and just got the truth out. I'd never done that in my life. So I spoke the truth. I went there 2 different times, and then did something that is very difficult for us in prison to do, which is to go get some mental health assistance. So you go talk to the psychologist. And I knew what I was doing was setting the record, because the board psychologist is going to do an evaluation on me to go to the board. So she's going to see what's going on with me in this time frame, So I put it out there because I had to get it out there. I'm getting it out there now. I wanted to, and that was the key, wanting. Want is a 4-letter word that is incredibly, incredibly crucial and vital to where we go and what we do. For me, that's what happened. I wanted it this time. I needed to get it out. And so I did with her and got some more insight. But getting it out was important because speaking it into existence with somebody else, there had some tangible evidence of what things that I needed to do. And there were some actions that I can take because I didn't know still. I hadn't been doing anything responsible. I hadn't been doing anything that was accountable. So this was an opportunity for me to do that. And so with keeping this young man in mind and what I was dedicated and devoted to, I began that process, and then getting ready to go back to the board, right, after my 3-year denial, because that dirty, UA gave me, they're not going to let you go back to board in a 1.5 years when you get a 115, so you're going to have to do your whole 3-year denial. So I did my whole 3-year denial, went to the board, completely different record was set. I walked out of there with a 5-year denial. So remember, a dirty piss test gave me 6 months without contact with my family, I lost my privileges, right? I lost all my credibility and legitimacy, and rightfully so. These things are rightfully so. But this is how damaging our choices can be. Yet we sometimes say, well, I made a mistake, right? I made a choice, and these are my consequences. So not only did all those things occur, but on a 3-year denial, you get an opportunity to put in a 1045, or the board calls it an automatic review. So after that time frame, if you haven't gotten any trouble like that, they'll take you back early. So you're on a 3-year denial, you're gonna go back in a 1.5 years, unless you're messing up, then you're gonna do a whole 3. So I did the whole 3. So I got sentenced, amongst the other stuff, to a 1.5 years essentially, right? Because I didn't get that 1.5 years off. I had to do that 1.5 years. When I went back to the board, not only did I have to do all that, I got a 5-year denial. So I got a bigger denial than I've ever gotten in my entire life.
For being honest.
And that's the thing where... And
you got less time denied when you were trying to cheat the whole thing.
I was a liar. I was just deception artist. I was living by a double standard and a hypocrite and all this other stuff. I'm getting a 3-year denial when I'm lying, and you give me a 5-year denial when I'm telling the truth.
And that can be confusing. Right? You know what I mean? It's like, man, I'm trying to do the right thing here and I'm getting punished. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
It was upsetting. I was mad. But because I now began to possess the ability to look at what the facts are, crucial. What are the facts? Now, what I'm telling myself got me into this equation in the first place. What are the facts, man? And the facts are, you've been lying this whole time. 25 years, the record has been set this way. And now, this time, you said it in a completely different way. And it wasn't about a 5-year denial as punishment, per se. It was 5-year denial because there needed to be some time for that record to now be set. And everything that you brought to the table today is not something that is fleeting. There's some longevity to it because there's been a sincere and a genuine conviction of a change. And so there needed to be some time to set the record. And so I understood that. Right. I was still mad and upset, but I realized a different way. And I was like, okay, so you want to see where I'm at? You're going to test me? Because a 5-year denial is a lot of times people just go, man, hell with this. And they give up and they smoke it.
Forget it.
They go back to all the stuff that they were doing. But this time I was like, this is not what it is, man. I'm going to get back early. You know why? Because I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to do what I should have been doing this whole time. But I wasn't there. Right. So I began that process. I did more, like twice as much. They asked a lot of me, and they should have.
Right.
They should have. And they did. But I did like twice as much as they wanted from me. So I turned in my appeal, 2.5 years into the process, and got back to the board. And then, I got my own way. I'm still learning how to address emotions and things like that, especially when I'm riddled with anxiety, PTSD, prison stuff. Going there and open myself up to speak the most in-depth truth. It was still a big wound for me because I hadn't been doing it 25 years. And I began the process, but talking about it with people who have my life in their hands, my free life in their hands, is huge, man, because of what I've done. I can attach myself to these emotions about what I've done and how many people I've harmed. And that was my human nature, not my monster that I let out for all this time or let go, but connecting to humanity again, being a human being again in that moment, and realizing and sitting in that space and imagining what I took away.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a lot, but those moments I'm proud of myself for, and I'm so thankful for so many people that helped me. But in those moments that I've learned to tolerate those emotions that I always run from, or acted out in violence and aggression, or I would use substances to numb. Now I'm able to sit there and feel them. So it wasn't to say that I was able to articulate all that yet, but I was able to feel them. So I wasn't completely there. Eventually, January of 2022, I ended up going to the board and getting found suitable. You know, once again, that whole thing, you know, of they'll put you in a catch-22. They'll say, like, do you deserve a parole date today?
Right.
And if you say, yeah, I deserve a parole date, say, oh, well, you know, you're arrogant, you're cocky, you did this to somebody, but you're gonna come in here and say you deserve a parole date, 3 year denial. Or they're gonna say, you know, do you deserve a parole date? And somebody will say, well, because now they're gonna be hit to, well, you can't say I do deserve it because I'm gonna get banged. You say, no, I don't believe I do. Well, you're this close, so you're gonna get a 3 year denial. It's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. What do you do? It's like, man, what is the truth to you? Right? Hell with anybody else, or everything's for the board. Because the board we had to see to get out of prison.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it for yourself, you really truly can't get out of prison. Even when you do get out of prison, people are still in prison. And so it's like, what is it to you, Richie, man? You know, and I realized at that moment, this man, and what I'd said was, this man deserves to be here and have the opportunity to live more than I'll ever have the deserving nature of having an opportunity to go home. This moment's a blessing. After what I've done, I'm lucky I didn't get life without. You know what I mean? And so, but I meant it. That's why I said it. I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
It came from who I am as a person today. And so that guy went to him and said, like, Mr. Hutchins, I never heard that before, you know? And it was like, that's because you're on that real shit, man, you know? And it gave me confidence because I started doing good things. So there was some evidence to the contrary of my shame and my guilt and all this other stuff that kept me stuck, which we all have to a degree. You know, what are we willing to do? At what cost? At what benefit?
They really made you earn your freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, and it's a big difference. You know, that's the thing about being a lifer. You know what I'm saying? You had to earn your freedom. It wasn't like, oh, my time's up, I'm going home.
Yeah.
No, because they could have kept you for life.
For sure.
Right.
And I'm blessed that they gave me a blessing. They made me earn it for sure, but they still could have kept me. What they did is they gave me a blessing, which is why I said this is a miracle, man. And I don't mistake that for nothing. This is a blessing, and they allowed me this moment. And I'm thankful. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, I work as a drug and alcohol counselor. I know we'll get into that later and stuff, but nobody in a million years would ever think that I would be a drug and alcohol counselor. But that's the changes that I made. But that's how convicted I am, and I want to help people because I know there's a bunch of people like me that are suffering and struggling, and that I want to be a part of being able to give back. And I owe a debt that I can never repay, but I'm gonna do my damnedest, and I'm gonna help as many people as I can. You know, and that's what it's about, is helping each other. Right, what we do, so right about family. It's a family thing now. I love that. I respect that. I'm in. You know, so I'm thankful to be here right now, to be a part of that.
Yeah. So 32 years, and on the 25th year, you started making that change. So during that time, I want to make it clear to the people out there that are watching this that what Richie was doing is not only admirable, and I'm very proud of him, but you guys don't realize how difficult it was, because this man, in order to do these certain things, he put himself in danger. I know you guys don't understand that. You don't. But just believe when I tell you this, that everything he was doing was against the grain in prison. You know what I'm saying? He's okay when he's flowing and running and doing all these other things, you know, from his issues or whatever, and putting on the monster. But as soon as you try to be human and really try to fight for your freedom and things like that, all eyes on you, from the yard. And so it was very difficult time for you. And I understand that, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I said you earned your freedom, and the board felt you earned your freedom as well. You know what I'm saying? So you went through a lot of difficult times from that 25th year all the way till you got home. So I commend you for that, brother. You know what I mean? And I'm glad you made it home, because y'all don't know, man. You don't know. Just because his life sentence, you know what I mean, he became suitable, didn't mean there's a lot of hate in there. Anyways.
For sure. Lucky to be here.
Very blessed to be here, brother, man, and I'm happy that you're here. So tell all of us, man, after 32 years in prison, the very first day, you're finally going home. What is that like? The anxiety, the stress, and just looking forward to being out. And what is it like now that you're going to be on the other side of the gate versus looking from the inside? You're going to be on the outside. So take us through that day, what that was like when they finally let you go.
It was incredible. It's hard to even put into words still. You know, once again, we can't prepare ourselves for things that we haven't experienced yet. So that moment for me, man, was walking into R&R with my stuff. When they came and got me at count time, you're like, Hutchins, they call my name. Like, and I knew it was coming because they'd already told me, right? But just to hear my name getting called, everything makes it more official. And so that was like, oh my God, it goes, we're going to be back as soon as we clear count. And it's probably going to be 20 minutes or a half hour. So that time frame, you're saying your goodbyes, you know, and things like that. I'm like, what the hell is going on, man? I don't even know how, because I've never had that feeling before. It was crazy, man. It felt like I'm free already.
Yeah.
But it felt bad because I'm leaving people that I know that are doing the right thing, and you know, stuff that I want them to have an opportunity. So you need to be having this chance to walk out of prison, right? So I was doing the same thing you were doing with me, with them. It's like, man, they deserve that too. But I walked to R&R with my stuff, and I could hear people yelling out at the door, like, Richie, you know, they were calling me, and it was like, turn back and say, you know, what's up to them. I know that every step that I'm taking is one less step that I'll ever take back in prison, and making it to R&R. When I get to R&R, when I go inside that gate, I'll never be back on the other side of that gate. When I get into R&R and I hit this area over here, I'll never be back on. So each one of these things were phases for me that was like, this is the last time of this. This is the last time of this. The last time. Never thinking there would be a last time. My last time was last time I was going to be free. You know what I mean? And now here I am getting ready to be free and leave this shithole of an existence, right? Putting on my real clothes, right? It's like,
yeah, that was a trip.
Oh my God, dude, that was awesome, man. And I was pacing, because I knew my family was on the other side. And I still was kind of leery of the process. Like, man, I used to watch the other side of the gate, and that's places, especially a lifer. You can't go there, man. They'll shoot your ass, man. You try to escape or something. But now here I am. I'm supposed to walk that because I'm going home. While I'd watched that for so long and try to imagine, and you can't do it justice. Yeah. Because you just cannot imagine, especially with something that you can't experience yet. And so you don't know the emotions that are going to come with it. Walking out thinking, I still don't feel like I belong here. Even though I'm just waiting for the other dudes in the CO to come and take us to our family. Getting in the car and not having to be handcuffed like Hannibal Lecter with a mask on because you're getting ready to transfer someplace, you know. You're in your real clothes. You're sitting there in a car in the back seat. You're just chilling. You got your stuff, and we're driving around. And I see my family, you know, the van, and I'm just like, this is happening. Literally feet away, man. And as soon as we pull up, the door started opening, and I opened the door because I just had one box. I sent everything home, right? I had one box. That was it. I was hella light, and I gave everything else away. And I walk out, and I drop my stuff, and we just started hugging and, you know, bawling, man. You know, now each one of us did that, but instead of staying there and having this deeper, prolonged moment, I was like, let's get the hell out of here. Let's get the hell out of here, man. Let's get on. Yeah. And so we took off, and, you know, everybody was just through the roof. And I am looking out the window going, there's not bars. Once again, I'm not cuffed, not shackled up, right? In this little area where you got your little lunch that you put against the window and you kind of sleep on, right? I'm looking out of this thing, trying not to get car sick. And I'm like, where do you want to go? You know, what do you want to eat? I'm like, man, just take me home, man. just take me home. I want to go home. They're like, well, we got to get something to eat. We haven't had coffee. And I was like, let's go get some coffee then. First thing I did was went to a Starbucks. I didn't know what the hell was going on in there because they got these cards and they got, you can hand them money and stuff. But they got these little things you stick a card in and it automatically pays. And it's like, what do you order? I was overwhelmed. I was like, man, just order me something. Just order for me. I mean, my dad took a picture and it was great, man. Eventually we went to a restaurant and we headed home got to see all the rest of my family and stuff. And of course, 4th of July was a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to experience freedom and being around my family for the first time. And it was just incredible. But what was not lost on me, once again, is this is an opportunity that I took from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm thankful and proud that I carry that with me, that it's symbolic and it's important, and not to take these things for granted. So having him with me, he keeps me honest like that, to not take these things for granted. And it's difficult in freedom, even after a year, like I was telling you earlier, I've been out 1 full year. June 29th was a year for me. And on that year, reflecting on things, I realized that I wasn't going to die in prison. I'm at work, trying not to cry. I'm shedding tears because I can't believe that I'm not going to die in prison, but I've been out a year, because that belief systems are so impactful that it was just, the reality of it is I'm free. I'm not going to die in prison because that's what I thought. I'm releasing these things and I get to live. But it's still difficult because in prison, you know what you're doing. You live in a 200-yard radius, right, for your life. You're not going nowhere. You're going to the canteen. You're going to R&R to get your package, or you're going to go post up with your homies or whoever. But you're not going nowhere. And so there's nothing to do. Out here, I still want to run back to the dorm or back to the cell, which is now I have an apartment. I'm working, so I'm having my things and getting my life together. But prison is really detrimental to the psyche. Because I would still prefer to be alone, still understanding the roles that we play in our relationships with people. I'm coming home, and I know I don't have anybody that I'm in a relationship with right now, but in time where you do, right? They're used to you being in prison, right? So you're different when you're in prison, but now when you're with them at home, there's a different time and space that you're spending. And so the roles start shifting, and it's difficult to work through that, because the way you conducted yourself in prison in a relationship and the way she conducted herself out in freedom in a relationship is completely different when you're getting hooked up at home. And so there's conflicts. And I say this with my family. There was a lot of that too, and it wasn't some kind of argumentative and anything like that. It was super detrimental, but it was just learning each other again. To understand how we move together and the things that we need to do to shore up and make amends with this time space that was spent being on each side of the fence.
Right.
And now we're here. Now we get to learn how to live with each other in a free world rather than coming into a visiting room and spending some hours in there and just getting everything out and update real quick and go about your business.
Yeah.
So there's things for me that are still really, really devastating and hard to maneuver through because I'd still prefer to be alone. I still don't understand this society all the way.
People in our shoes we can relate. We understand what you're talking about right there. But I don't think that, people realize how difficult it is transitioning back into like the family environment or, doing relationships or just going get a job or even just going and getting your driver's license again. All that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, is just nerve-wracking and it's difficult and, you're facing judgment. Here I am, I'm older, I got to get a license now, you know what I mean? Why haven't I had a license or why don't I have any job history and, or maybe I'm not making my parents happy because I haven't found a job yet or whatever it may be. But yeah, I could see the difficulty of it. And you're not able to speak about that with those people that you're going through with it, and which I've experienced and a lot of people who have been in our shoes have experienced. But I think that, just from the outside looking in, you're doing excellent, bro. You've only been home a year and you've got your apartment, you have a career, like you said, you're a drug and alcohol counselor, you're doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Be proud of how far you've come, and I know you are, but consistently remind yourself of that, and and continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing an awesome job. You are.
Thank
You
you,
know what I'm
man.
saying? I've been around a lot of brothers that have come home from prison, and I'm telling you, man, the struggle is real. And a lot of us, man, don't handle it too well, because it's not that easy. You know what I'm saying? Especially going away as a kid, like you were 19, 18, 19.
18, yeah.
Yeah. And you come home 49 years
Yeah.
old. And what do people expect? Expect you to know how to do these things that you never experienced.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a difficult transition. And especially coming home to family and you're in their face now, or coming home to a relationship and you're in their face now. And that's some good shit that you brought up there. So now that you're free and you're doing your thing, what's it like as far as having your own place, having your career? Have you had time, because you've only been out a year, have you had time to figure out what you want to do with your future? You know what I'm saying? Because, you came home and you had all these thoughts. Are they the same? Are the goals the same now?
My goal was to get free. When I was in prison, that was my goal. I just want to be free. That's the ultimate thing, right? But when prison ends, life begins, and then all the responsibilities that everybody else has that I'm not familiar with, because I never had them in prison. Right? We duck and dodge dumb shit, and people that are struggling and suffering and doing all the stuff that they're doing. If you made a change, and it's not easy when you make your change, like you kind of alluded to, right? You're going against the grain. But for me, and we all do that in every facet of our life, whether you're in there, whether you're free, we all do it. And it's really comes down to a conviction, sincerity tester.
Yes.
How convicted are you about your path? So I chose this path. But when I got out, I gave myself a career when I was in, and I didn't know how it was going to fold when I got out. I was out a couple months. This place calls and gives me the opportunity, and I took full advantage of that. And I love my career. I love what I do. But as far as goals and stuff, I'm still learning and understanding what those, because it keeps on changing, because of everything that I didn't experience out here is now coming full force. Being institutionalized, you're getting stripped of all these choices. You have no choices, really. There are choices, but they're minimal. And the choices that you do have, they're going to be consequences. So you're really pigeonholed on how many choices that you actually have. Well, you come out here, you could do anything. I mean, there's so many choices that I'm learning now that I have, but I didn't realize, because my mind is still stuck, that I don't have them. I'm still stuck in prison. And so I'm trying to de-institutionalize my mind in that regard. Like, you can choose to do anything. Well, what do you choose to do? Well, my mind's still stuck on I don't have really too many choices. Then I don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. So I'm free. I'm like, I could do anything I want to do. And it's the greatest thing in the world. But then I'm still stuck going, I don't know what to do. And that's hard. It makes me feel like, this is crazy. Some people that's done a long time would say there's going to come a moment where you just rather go back to prison because it's easier. And I got out and I heard it. I'm like, you guys are freaking crazy, man. And it's devastating once again to get to that point where you think, I understand what they're meaning by that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to go back, and I'm not going to put myself in a position to go back.
But you
and
get
I'm
it.
going to continue to strive. But I get what it means now. And I'm thankful, and this is the process of communication. What it does is it allows people to understand different information, or to finally receive it because it's coming from a different angle. For me, I take into account what people are going through, or the advice that they have, what their experience has been like. So here's some stuff that you may look into and prepare yourself for. Good advice. Thank you for that. Because now in time, it may be 6 months, it may be 5 months, maybe tomorrow, it may be 8 months. It's gonna come. And if I'm not resistant, right, and I am able to receive, you've helped me out a lot and gave me a lot of key information. I pay attention to this and be ready for this, and I know what you're kind of going. You give me a lot of that. It's helped me to understand, for one, what's the problem, right? What's happening right now? Is it true, right? Like, I don't have a choice. I don't know what to do. Do something. Let's go to the movie theater. Just to start out. Just to prove that you can make your own choices, and you don't have to sit there going, I have all these choices now that I never had, but I don't know what to do. I'm lost. I'm stuck. And that's something that I've really been struggling with. I know now that I have choices, but I'm still trying to figure out what to do. I still don't know how to live out here all the way yet. I've worked on myself and I got the answers and I know me and I'm happy and I'm proud and I'm thankful. But as far as what I do out here, what do you do for fun? Man, I really don't know. I just spend a little bit of time. I give my time to my family and come spend time with you, and I'm happy with that. But other than that, it's like I really don't do anything else. I'm still trying to figure out what to do. And that's hard sometimes.
Yeah, I completely understand, Richie. And as time goes on, it gets easier. Or not easier, but you learn how to navigate. You know what I'm saying?
Difficult.
Yeah, and every day, even now, I've been home since 2009, and every day now, I'm still learning new stuff. You know what I mean? Especially about myself, and dealing with other people and being in my relationship and things like that. So, it's just something that takes time. I spent most of my life locked up, my teenage years, all my teenage years and all my 20s. And so it took a long time to really just grow up out here. You know what I mean? While everybody else was growing up and going through the things like relationships, careers, and all this other stuff out here, it stopped for you and I, you know what I mean? Like for people like us that were locked up. And so you coming home after 32 years, it's like being a kid again, because you have to really start all over. You know what I mean? Like I got to get my first job, or, I got to get a driver's license, or, change my first tire or whatever, and change the brakes on my truck, right? These experiences that most people might take for granted, they've done it for years and enjoyed life out here. This is something that's difficult for us and something very new for us. And so the people that are in our lives, they have to understand that, especially if they spent that time with us locked up. They should know we were locked up and we spent a lot and we didn't experience all these things. Life stopped for us. But sometimes for our loved ones, it's difficult for them to see that. You know what I mean? That's happened to me and my family, But as time goes on, again, as I learn, they learn. My family learns, and they figure it out. And they're more understanding of me now. They understand where I'm coming from and what I got to deal with inside, you know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that I spent so much time locked up, So I was embarrassed too when I first came home. I mean, actually working on a car and doing it with my friend, and he's just doing whatever because he knows how to work on it. I felt really dumb. You see what I'm saying? So, it's something like maybe a man should know is how to change a tire or change some brakes or whatever it may be, work on a car, right? But no, I was a kid when I got locked up. And these are the things we missed, man,
Yeah, and just understanding that and giving ourselves some grace and knowing that if I'm not aware of how to do something yet, it's not because I'm inadequate, not because I'm stupid, not because I'm a failure, right? So it attaches to those shame issues. If you don't really work on them all the way, they're going to come back up, man. And so for me, if I could just say, hey, it's not because you're dumb, or it's not because of none of this stuff. There's too much evidence to the contrary now. You've proved that you're not dumb. You proved that you're incredibly smart. But it's not about that. It's about understanding that you have not had these experiences.
Right.
So how could you cause a judgment on yourself?
Right.
Simple terminology changes. If I critique myself, critiquing is negative. If I assess myself, assessment's neutral. So let's take a genuine stock of what is here. What is the situation? I don't know how to change my brakes. Right? Well, I haven't had that opportunity. I haven't had those experiences. Well, then my state of mind is be like, okay, well, how do I do it?
Right.
Instead of feeling like a dumbass. Because I had that tendency too. I'm just supposed to know things. But the reality is, how are you supposed to know things if you haven't experienced them? And it's okay with that. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Things like that have made it really, really, easier for me to go about my day. And little key words too. You change them, right? Like, man, I got to do this today, as opposed to, man, I get to do this today.
Get to do it.
One letter, right? Change that O to an E. I got to do this today, as opposed to I get to. If you got to, it's a responsibility, it's a pressure, it's a demand.
Right.
I get to is a blessing, and you're fortunate, and it's a miracle.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like I listen to my wife. Sometimes she bitches about being in traffic, right? That's her pet peeve. She hates traffic and things like that. Anything that's impeding her from getting to her destination, she hates it and she goes off about it. But it made me think about, when she's going off about things like that, it made me realize, like, I remember being in prison and wishing I could be in traffic
For sure.
and wishing I could be in that line at DMV and shit, standing there for 2 hours and shit, trying to get my driver's license. I didn't give a fuck about those problems when I was locked up in there. I wanted them problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I get to fucking do this. I get to do it. You know what I mean? And that's the big difference too. It's a huge mind shift, like you said. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge mind shift because then you start to see things in a different light, and you start to be more grateful, and you know what I mean, and feel like, man, I'm a lucky motherfucker to be here in this traffic right now because I was in a cell for 10, 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Huge. I mean, I'd be sitting in traffic, you know, it just, I had the radio up a little bit. I'd be smiling, giggling, and joking. I look over and some dude just like, you know, he got his eyebrows, man. I wonder if we see like, who's this sherm stick over here laughing and stuff? We're caught in traffic, asshole. You know what I mean? I just, because the reality of it is, I don't want to be stuck in traffic.
Right.
But I don't want to be in prison either.
Nope.
Would I rather be in prison or rather be stuck in traffic?
I'd rather be in this traffic.
Because now it's just a matter of time. This traffic's going to move along. And so what it's also doing is teaching me patience.
Yeah.
Hey, man, relax. It's going to be patience. If I talk kind to myself, if I look at, and we all struggle with this, man, across the board. Look at the country, look at the nation, look at the world. We're struggling. We're hurting. This is a hurt nation, man.
Yeah.
And so we got to ask why. For me, I ask myself why, because if I can know, maybe I could help somebody else. And it's the little things of just understanding the situation. I've been gone a long time. It's a miracle for me to be out here. I'm thankful. I'm happy. But I could also have a tendency to get down on myself because if I'm stuck not knowing how to live in a free society, I can get worried. I can start getting anxiety. I can isolate. Isolating is different than detaching, right? And so that's a key term too. If I'm sitting at my home and I'm thinking, man, I don't know what to do, I say, all right, well, maybe what we want to do is just sit here and kick back and watch TV right now, man. It's okay. Decompress. You know, I got a lot of responsibilities at work, and I mean, we all do. It's a great job, but it entails a lot of stuff. I need time to wind down because I'm still learning how to live in a free society. But here I am helping people, right? And that's a big responsibility. And I make sure that I'm there, I'm present, I'm thorough with what I do. So I give everything I got because I get to, right? It makes me feel good. So I like my time to be by myself. So I tell myself, then why are you worrying about you don't know what the hell to do? You know, we take this time to decompress and just enjoy your time to just watch TV, man. If you want to go to the park, if you want to go do something else, well, then make the decision to do it and then go do it. If you don't, chill out, man. And so I talk myself through this stuff instead of going, man, you don't know what to do. I don't know what to do out in society. I don't, get stuck in that little mind game. I go downhill psychologically, emotionally. I start having a hard time. But I just simply say, man, you've been gone for a long time. We're going to learn what to do. And it's okay, man. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's not tomorrow. Maybe it's next week. Maybe it happens 10 minutes later. Just allow the process to be what it is, but understand what's happening has really been helping me out and not be hard on myself. I've been gone a long time. I don't know a lot of things, but I get a chance to learn them, and then it'll come. It's not like a light switch where everything happens all at one time. It'll happen because look where I'm at now. I mean, I went out and got my own apartment, right, and paid my own bills. So I'm doing things on my own. So I am being productive and doing things. But if things are going to be the way that they're supposed to be on a time frame that they're supposed to be on. And all these are lessons for me to continue to monitor myself, what's happening inside, why it's happening, and continue to say, well, what do you want to do now? What do you want to do now?
Yeah.
What do you want to do now? And continue to evolve. And that's what it is. It's up for all of us, man. It's just a progression and evolution that's going to bring us to ultimate happiness. But it's what do you want to do? What makes you happy? What are your goals? And what do we need to do to achieve them? And it happens. Happiness and joy come.
Right. Love it, man. Let me ask you, if you had one wish right now, you know what I mean, and everything you've been going through in this past year, if you have one wish, man, what would it be? What would you wish for right now that you could have?
Like for everybody, or just like in my life, my people, where I'm at, my social network and things like that.
Right.
It's just that across the board, that there can be a complete understanding, right, of each other and our experiences, and that sometimes it may be difficult to ask for help and being patient with each other, understanding that once again, these roles that we all play, and most people don't understand the dynamic of that, right? We just think it's just normal program, right? Well, it is normal program because if it's dysfunctional, that's what it is. But we can do things to enlighten ourselves, to receive information, like, hey, Ron, what's going on with you today? Express yourself. I'll listen. I'll receive it. Because I'm genuinely concerned about it. But I won't critique or judge and blast you out and all these other things that are dysfunctional. But just be present with you and say, hey, man, wow, okay, well, how can I help you? Right? Let me understand. The more I can understand, the more that I may be able to offer. But at least all the stuff that I may think will be out of the way, right? Because it's what you're telling me, not what I'm thinking. So there's the absolute information. I would wish that we could all communicate and not be afraid to, and that we can, at the end of the day, just live and be happy and be thankful and take in all of the moments, not take them for granted, but enjoy every second, even the difficult stuff that we go to, and knowing that I can go through it, but you're going to be there to have my back when I'm struggling, because maybe tomorrow is your day and I get to be there for you, that camaraderie. Wow. And so that was something that I would really wish for, and that I wish for everybody to understand exactly how grateful I am. That would be something else, because I don't know if I could articulate it correctly, because it's too profound of how grateful I am and how I know that this is a miracle that I'm living, this miracle of life. So I don't take it for granted. I wake up every morning grateful, go to bed every night grateful. I just wish they knew to that extent, because I think if they knew to the extent of my gratitude and that I'm fortunate and blessed, that alone would cause immense change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everything I lost and everything I threw away, I gave away everything. And then I stole life. I stole so many things from society. And I choose to change that. And I like to believe that I am changing that. But one thing's for sure, I've changed myself, and I continue to do that all the time, because I expect and demand more of myself while being compassionate and not kicking myself in the ass too much.
All right, man. I love it. So what before our final thought, like, what's your message to the viewers here? You know what I mean? Because y'all going to see a lot more of Richie. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of topics to cover, but we just wanted to make sure you guys get to know him, introduce Richie to you guys, and tell his story. But what is your goal? Now that you're home, I know you want a lot of things, but what is your goal? With doing this and helping others out there, what is your message?
My message would be kind to yourself. And as much as we go through stuff, and as devastating and debilitating as it can be, just know that somebody else maybe on the other side is going through the same thing. And it's what we're doing with it. So being understanding of all these different things that are going on, even when we're struggling, it's hurting. We have the thing that we do with our pain and our hurt and our anger and fears. If we could just sit and understand where they're coming from, and that it's going to be okay, and that there are people that understand, that want to listen, but there are also other people that are hurting too, right? So maybe not take everything so personal if that's what people do. I knew I was guilty of that my whole life. Everything was to make me upset, right? Everything was about me. Nothing was about me. Yet at the same time, it was all about me, because I was my own problem. It wasn't anybody else. It was me. And knowing that we have a responsibility and we have choices. And the best we could do is just, for one, be kind to yourself. And if you want to have big changes, talk positive to yourself. That positive self-talk, man, these little daily affirmations. Hey, you know what? I'm struggling today, man. But you know what? I can admit it. Well, that's a positive. You know what? Hey, I'm struggling. I'm suffering through this right here, but I still handled it this way. Well, that's different than what you have been doing. Little positives, man, make a big difference. The 1% add up, and that changes your life. So my message would be, for one, just be kind to yourself, and understanding that there's a lot of suffering and struggling going on. But the truth is the most important thing. When we can admit that, especially to ourselves, we can make these changes, and there's people that are out there that want to help and want to do their part to give back. And that for me is part of what I'm out here for. And my goal is to just help as many people as I can, sit and be present with people and let them know that, hey, man, I got you, man.
That's right.
I hear you. You know what I mean? And just be present, you know, paraphrase back to let them know, hey, I'm listening to you, and here's why. I'll give you examples about what you're talking about, you know, and help each other heal. Be present in that, you know, and be understanding.
Love it.
We all suffer.
Love it. Love it. So, man, hey, thank you for that, brother, man. I really appreciate that, you know what I'm saying? And you sharing your experiences with us and, you know, making yourself vulnerable and coming on here to, you know, spread the message and spread the word and introduce yourself to us. Man, I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you and, you know, continuing what we're doing now. And, man, I love you, brother, man. Thank you for coming to the show.
Love you too.
And, you know, it's a really good thing to see you here outside, you know what I'm saying, on the other side of the gate. And I really believe you earned your freedom, brother, man. And, you know what I'm saying, you deserve this, you know. Real talk. All right.
Appreciate you.
All right, y'all. That's it for now, man. And like we told y'all before, Richie is fresh out. He's only been out a year, so he has no socials. So what I'm going to do, y'all, is I'm going to help brother Richie out and get him some socials. I'll be able to put it up on there when we upload this video for y'all. And that way you can contact him, ask him some questions about his life, whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? But thank y'all for tuning in. I always appreciate y'all, man. I love y'all, man. You already know that, you know, and y'all know what time it is, man. Ooh, so